So let me introduce our outstanding women entrepreneurs who will come on stage now. Nidhi Agarwal of KAARYAH. Nidhi, can you please join us on the dais? Anisha Singh of Maidala. Could you join us please, Anisha? Shanti Mohan of Let's Venture. Pranshu Patni of Culture Alley. Sari Chawla of Shiros. And our moderator for this session is Shelly Chopra of She the People TV. Thank you, and this is going to be an outstanding panel. Shelly, over to you. Have everybody off the stage.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're celebrating women, stories of innovative women entrepreneurs. My name is Shelly Chopra. I'm really proud to be here, not just as a journalist, but also as an entrepreneur now with SheThePeople.tv, and even more proud with the women flanked on both sides, because they've truly changed, I think, the startup landscape. The question to ask today is twofold. How is the startup landscape transforming the lives of women, and how women are transforming the entire startup ecosystem? Just a couple of numbers that are coming through from the various bodies that are put together. There's been a 50% jump in women participating in the startup ecosystem in the last 2 years alone. And when someone told me that I'm starting a niche startup because it focuses on women's stories, I said, 500 million people? Niche? Really? All right. With that note, let's just begin this fantastic panel, and we'll introduce our panelists in a little more detail as we go along. So I'll start first with Anisha Singh of Maidala, who's sitting right here with me. Anisha, you run a coupon-driven site. Consumers are your big piece. The world is your market. Tell us a bit about your story.
All right, for those of you who don't know Maidala, I run what is on the face of it a coupons or a deal site for the users. And on the back end, what it really is it's a services marketing platform for businesses like dental clinics, spas, you start your own cupcake business, whatever it is, we help you get to the right audience. Because for any business, essentially, marketing dollars up front or marketing rupees up front is very tough to put out, especially when you've invested in infrastructure. So we help bridge that gap and connect businesses to the relevant users. We're in about 200 cities now across India. When we started in 2009, so we're fairly old compared to the dot-com world. In 2011, our obituary was written. Everybody proclaimed Maidala dead. That being said, we have risen, and we've essentially gone to 200 cities. We love what we do. One quick thing before I started Maidala. Maidala is my second company. I come from a family where my father started his business, and when he started, we went through really hard times. One thing I told myself was, I will never be an entrepreneur. So never say never, because clearly you end up doing exactly what you decided you wouldn't do. The second company.
Pranshu, I've heard this said so many times. This is probably the best time to be a startup owner. And you are now in the space of languages. You teach English to people through multiple languages on a very popular app called Culture Alley. Tell us about being an entrepreneur and how Culture Alley began for you.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at India as a space, right, everybody's been telling here, India has the youngest sort of population and the most number of people perhaps in the productive age group today. But there's really a huge problem for these people. They're not getting the right jobs because, for them to be productive or get the right job, they really need to be able to communicate what they know. So even perfectly skilled people technically are not able to get jobs. When we saw that problem, we realized that, really India has to leapfrog and, become a global force to reckon with. English becomes a big enabler, and we saw that, and that's how we started Culture Alley, or our app, which is called Hello English, which is today India's #1 educational app, and we've helped more than 10 million people learn English through this platform. it's the best time to be in India given the mobile penetration, given the revolution that's happening, the digital revolution that's happening. And something like technology can really give access to so many more people where physical options were really not an option.
True, and you just talked about the need for jobs, and I'll go straight to Sairi Chahal there on that. One thing I love about this conference, it says, let's get job creators as opposed to job seekers. Sairi, she Rose really is taking that piece together.
Right. So I think we set up Sheroes, we're a career platform for women. And I think the context to that is, one, careers are not linear, careers are a maze. And for women even more so. India produces the maximum number of women graduates in the world. The amount of latent human capital we are sitting on is astounding. So what we set up was very simple. We said any woman with a career question on her mind can come to us. What's on offer is advice, mentorship, information, resources, and opportunities of diverse nature. Work from home opportunities, franchising, entrepreneurship, starting up, home-based businesses, and of course the corporate leadership opportunities. And I think what we're really saying is, let women across the country find a career that fits them. Today we've served about 1 million women with their career needs already. 7,000 companies use Sheroes, and there are about women from 5,000 locations on the Google map who have found us. And we've not even just started. We're just 0.5% done. So I think that's the potential of what we can do to value creation in this country.
Shanti Mohan, they like to say that entrepreneurs find solutions to where others see problems. And you started Let's Venture to help people raise funds at a time they were wondering, who's going to give me money? What has been that story for you? And more importantly, what was the feedback like from that ecosystem that was hungry for a space like that?
Yeah, so we were founded in 2013. So that's when it was early stages of entrepreneurship, when I think it was less celebrated, because I think last 2 years there's been a lot of PR coverage around funding, around success stories of startups raising funds. And the idea was conceived sometime in late 2012, and Let's Venture platform was born in 2013. And the problem we were trying to solve was that we were trying to help entrepreneurs and investors connect to each other and discover each other. Right. So when I kind of went out in the market, I have been a serial entrepreneur. So I did my first startup again way back in early 2000, when it was less sexy to be an entrepreneur. It was more hard work. And we did it because we wanted to build a company. And that's when I kind of raised my angel round as well as a Series A. But I had a lot of founder friends. I had one friend specifically who had to almost go out to 60 investors offline. And she took like 7 months to raise her funding. And at the end of that entire cycle, she had lost a lot of business because she was focusing on her funding, as well as she did not like the term sheet she got. Right. So there was a gap in the market. There were investors who were looking to connect to startups. So Let's Venture is basically a marketplace. We are not a VC. We are not an incubator or accelerator. We are a marketplace, and we connect startups who are looking for early stage funding to investors. They could be angel investors, they could be angel networks, they could be incubators, accelerators, VC funds. So we are a marketplace, and we believe that by making this ecosystem more transparent and more curated, you actually enable discovery and easy connect.
In fact, just before Startup India was to happen, we did a survey on SheThePeople.tv saying, what is your biggest challenge? We asked that to entrepreneurs, and funding came across nearly as much as building the right team and retaining that. Now, Nidhi Agarwal, you went to more than 135 investors.
113, yes.
113 before one could say yes.
Absolutely.
And that one happened to be Ratan Tata and a consortium with Mr. Mohandas Pai.
That's right.
So why do you think it took that long for people to realize the potential of KAARYAH?
I think there were two aspects to this. One was the fact that perhaps we were not articulating it in the right manner. And two, let's understand the consumer who's consuming KAARYAH.com. It is a woman who has a very busy lifestyle, and perhaps that's not the person who's sitting on the other end of the table listening to me, right? So the questions that came our way was, is this even a need? Is this market big enough? You say it's a niche, and I'm saying no, it's a 10,000 crore market. It's not a niche. And yes, absolutely finding the best possible fit is a very, very large unmet need. So I think it was a mix of both of those things.
Indeed. So if funding is indeed the largest challenge, what is it that, what is it that the ecosystem is doing about that? Pranshu, you've also got funded now. As a woman entrepreneur, did you face special difficulties going out there to fund? And if so, I'd really like to know that anecdotal story.
Sure. To put this question into context, I think things have changed and they've changed dramatically. I mean, today, if we go out raising funds, and my co-founder is actually my husband, right? So that problem was slightly more convoluted in our case. But today, when we go out to raise funds, nobody really questions that your co-founder is a woman, and second, that your co-founder is your wife. They just look at me as just another co-founder who's coming in with similar pedigree and is equally committed. I think what's very important for women to understand while raising funds is to detach that gender from it and really show the investors that they are committed to the idea and let the product speak for itself. I think that's very important, that they know that the product is right. The way you're thinking about the product is right, you're trying to build the right culture, and you're committed in it for a longer term, then I don't think you being a woman would stop somebody from putting in money. And I mean, honestly, the kind of people who we've raised from, you look at Sasha, you look at Rajan, they celebrate women entrepreneurs, and I think that's changed over time. The only one time that we were actually questioned, of being a husband and wife team and me being a woman was actually by a woman. So I think, us women should be the first ones to stop undermining other women and stop undermining or underselling ourselves.
Yes, we shouldn't forget what Hillary Clinton said, that there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. Okay, Anisha, you got 4 investors. Tell me a little bit about the fact that when you went out there to raise funds, did you think that India at that point was ready when 2009 is when your company came out? What was it like since then and now? Just to reflect a bit on that.
Well, in 2009, I was one of the few women, but I think I really had to, I challenged the investors' imagination because I started raising when I was about 7 months pregnant. So it was a special kind of stupid to go out there and do that. But globally, if you look at the stats, they do show that women-led businesses don't have adequate funding. So yes, the environment's changing. There is a lot that we're all talking about. We're seeing there's more awareness. I'm seeing more women entrepreneurs in the field. But the fact of the matter is that not a lot of women-led businesses have Series B funding or Series C funding. And I like this initiative. I like the fact that we have a women panel right here talking about and there's more focus on this because things need to change. And these are the things that are going to bring this into light. Yes, are there investors that don't look at women differently? Absolutely. There are a lot of, I got a lot of support from the network. But do we need to change it? Do we need to make a noise about it? Absolutely. I think, and I like the fact that we're moving towards that. We're actually doing something about it.
Sally, I'd like to understand from you that, again, you two have raised funds, but just to understand what goes on in the minds of investors, what have been the most interesting, perhaps even perplexing questions you were asked when you were sitting in front of investors?
Right. So we had a very interesting problem, and I see where it came from. Because we are a product centered around men, and we're talking to urban, educated women, it's the invisible middle. It's a large number, but it is almost unseen. The flavor of women conversation in this country has been either grassroots, Nari Mukti Morcha, which is great, there's a place there, or it's been let's put women in boardrooms and women leadership. What happens to the large urban middle? And we were taking a shot at that problem, but it took us a while to say, hey, we are not an NGO, we're not going to work for free, it is a business model, it is a platform. So we had a lot of perception barrier to overcome, and I'm a single founder, and I think it did add a little bit of dissonance about that, but I think we overcame that by just taking a shot at solving the problem. The more traction we got, the better it became, So by the time we had served 1 million queries, we built a self-sufficient business, and we had taken a call, funding or no funding, this is what we're going to do. So, if you want to join us, wonderful, because we're going to make it large. But that's really sort of the approach we took. But I think there is a sense of invisibility around women as a segment. Look at us, there are 3 of us who are building women-centric businesses, and I'm sure if it was a guy, he wouldn't be building this, right? Because this is a perspective we bring to the table, and that's true diversity.
So that's a very interesting point. I'm going to ask you, Nidhi Agarwal. Now, you happen to be in the business of women products, but at the end of the day, you've got to think of your business as a business person. Somebody the other day said that let women entrepreneurs be women as they build their businesses. Let's not ask them to be Rambo at work. Is that something you've tried to fix within your organization? Have you gone out there and felt so?
Well, I've deliberately never walked into the office telling myself I'm not going to be a woman today, right? I walked into the office promising myself to be the most efficient CEO for that day, promising that my team will deliver what it is meant to deliver and at every cost, right? So work is work, and you leave, sometimes, of course, empathy is a very large part of work as well. So certainly just being Rambo and being absolutely zero EQ will not go a very long way at work at all. But, to your point, I'm never going to walk into office saying I'm going to not be a woman today, or the effort is certainly very, very different. Yeah.
Shanti Mohan, one of the pieces that are often said, and again, these are generalizations which one needs to fix, is that women are not building scalable businesses. Now, what do you think is going on in the mind of the investor when they say that? And what's been your experience when people think of scale and women entrepreneurs?
So I would tend to disagree there, because I think, like I mentioned earlier also, I also believe that women entrepreneurship has to be more immersive in the culture. You can't have a women's panel and celebrate women entrepreneurship. I think you have to be in every panel and be part of every conversation, and that's when you build an immersive culture which is progressive. Right? That having been said, I think there are less women getting into entrepreneurship. So the funnel is reducing as you go further up, right? There are a lot of good women entrepreneurs, like Richa Kaur has actually built a scalable business. There is Vani Kola, who's actually one of our best VCs, right? So I don't think that it is the point of being a woman. It is just that opportunities and the funnels are reducing. So I don't see that bias against women or for a woman. Like, you don't raise funding because you're a woman. You raise funding because your business is good and the investor is actually looking at it as a viable business. So we also raised our Series A, but I think not a single investor has asked me the question, or have I got a favorable response because I was a woman. I think that is kind of out of the context for the conversation.
Right. We of course have all noticed that Ms. Sitharaman has come here to definitely be present in this particular panel. So I'm going to get down to the questions where what do we want the government to do for women entrepreneurs, and can they really do something to the ecosystem? Pranshu, a perspective there.
I mean, obviously what we want from the government is just help with the overall ease of business. But speaking about women entrepreneurs specifically, I think if there can be active mentorship, that's more important from government or non-government bodies. A lot of women who start off really, or a lot of entrepreneurs in general, and more so women who start off, give up too soon. And I think that's the biggest reason why startups fail, because, persistence is the key. So active mentorship on, hey, this is how you need to approach it, or till when is it right to bootstrap? It's very nice to say that, investors will follow, you need to make money first. Look, it's difficult if you don't have any funds to put into your business, right? So if they're like the seniors from the government and non-government bodies can really handhold and, really create that network, I think that'll be super helpful for women or non-women entrepreneurs overall. And then, of course, ease of business is something that would scale no matter, whether you're a women entrepreneur or just an entrepreneur in general too.
Anisha, we were earlier talking about the need for these networks. Now they are there, but probably smaller in scale and not all encompassing. Do you think that's really where the plugging needs to be done? Get larger networks, get more women heard, perhaps have more of these events where you all can talk about what your needs are, how you can scale up?
First of all, I actually never used to do women panels. That was a serious no for me. My thing was I want to be recognized on my merits, not for a woman. The more, however, I started doing these, I realized that there were a lot of women out there that actually needed clarity on how to move forward in terms of doing stuff. So if it was, and I don't think this is just a government thing, I think women entrepreneurs in general who are already at a certain scale should be doing this. It's our moral responsibility to be actually fostering this environment as well, which is helping mentor other women entrepreneurs, and also in terms of structure or government, it would be nice to have some clarity. I think a lot of the things are in place. It's just there's no clarity, or people don't understand where to go for these resources, how to get the loans, what is the infrastructure. These things, if it just becomes more clear to them, and the networks in general, I just feel like women who've already gotten to a certain scale, they just help in terms of building stronger networks, which in India are very few and far between.
Sure. You know, you talked about government support, and last 2 days in the run-up to Startup India, we've been hearing about collateral, collateral-free loans being given, and Mr. Kant tweeted that just a couple of days ago as well. We'll actually open this up to questions and get more from our panelists as we go along. So those who have questions, please raise your hand and the mics will arrive next to you. There are lots of questions. Yeah.
Hello. My question is, what are the unique advantages you think women entrepreneurs are bringing to the table?
Well, I personally believe that the woman consumer group in the Indian demography is far underserved. Now, since you are a consumer yourself, the articulation of the business idea and the product behind that to service that unmet need is perhaps easier for a woman to understand and meet. So just by virtue of having this really large undermet consumer segment, I think women-owned businesses that cater to this particular product that is best understood by a woman since she's a consumer too, is a very large white space to capture.
Okay. Hi. I have a question. I've had the good fortune of working with women entrepreneurs, and I feel they bring in a lot of creativity and empathy to the enterprise. My question is, while there is a need for creating awareness for women entrepreneurship, how can we do it in a smart way that it doesn't reinforce the bias against women? In a smart way, can we create awareness and do it at the same time? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, a very interesting question, and I think somewhere, part of our job, and we are the privileged set in this room, is to make every choice a valid choice. Can we begin by saying, at a very fundamental level, if we seeded more businesses, whether that business sold pickles or was it a home bakery, or whether it was somebody making nanochips or somebody setting out to set up a defense plant, I think if we sort of validated our choices, we would build a large base of entrepreneurial innovations, people taking a shot at problems in their own context. So whether it is, a woman in a village in Trichy or somebody in Ambala, I think if all their choices came into the table, we would be far richer as a country. And I think it would also instigate building solutions for India. And I think that is the real opportunity we are sitting on. We also have to relook at how we look at entrepreneurship and creating inclusion in general. And I think that's going to come around when every person brings their culture, their education, their enterprise on the table.
Excuse me.
There are two questions, so we'll take one from him and come back to you.
Hi, this is Senthil Kumar. My question is how women can raise a fund. So the problem is I'm facing is I'm mentoring around 200 girls from Madurai, it's a tier 2 city. So there are 6 startups fully funded by formed by women. Okay, the 6 startups are running. It's passing around 6 months and they are building a product. Now we are going for an investment. The first question from the investor is most of all these girls are not married. Okay, so what is the guarantee that if I invest on these girls after she get married, so his husband can't do anything? Okay, she can simply tell that stop this. Okay, so what is the guarantee I will return the money? So these are a set of questions they are asking. And I am building the ecosystem in tier 2 city because there are a lot of potential women are in the tier 2 city, but due to the family restriction, they can't go to the tier 1 city for either for a job or start a company.
So we got the general gist of what you're trying to say. I think this is a relevant issue, and I think everybody's reflected on that. We'll take one more question and address that as well along with that. Ma'am, you had a question. The mic.
Yes, exactly. My startup is basically based from Varanasi, and the question is कि इतने छोटे से शहर में मुझे networking में बहुत problem होती है. Like I don't know how to reach out to people. It's basically an art field. हम लोग local painters को, artists को promote करते हैं. So how to reach out to people and make them believe कि हाँ ये local artist है, but their work is good. I'm basically concerned about the networking thing and really confused about it, how to get it done.
Shanti, one issue that he raised, I think that's pretty relevant now. You could be a young girl still unmarried, or you could still be, just chasing die-heartedly and single and decide not to marry, yet you would have the gender stereotypes. So is the startup ecosystem beginning to shed those at some level?
To be very fair to the ecosystem, I have never seen those kind of questions come up when a good startup founder goes and pitches to an investor. So I think the first, important point is for women themselves not to think that they are underpowered when they actually go pitch to an investor. I think that is the first most important thing, is that you have to believe that you're going to the right people. And second is, if somebody is asking you those questions, I think you shouldn't even get them as your investor, because it's besides being a man or a woman, you could actually have various challenges as you're building the company. So if you don't believe in the vision of the company, don't believe in the team, I think they're not the right investors. Having said that, there are also women funds which have come up, like Saha Fund has come up, where Mohan Daspai is part of that. But they can actually go leverage the women specific funds too.
And the issue of networking, sorry, you want to add to that?
On your question of finding your market reach, and Twitter should sort of, pay me for this perhaps, but I think social media is your best friend, and a lot of us, believe me, even when we live in a big city, a lot of what we do, a lot of outreach, a lot of connecting the dots is online. And I think pretty much anybody you want to talk to, be a little audacious, be a little shameless. People may not respond to your mails, but I think if you're persistent, you'll get there. But being able to find your market, there are enough platforms, right from a Kunal Snapdeal to a Let's Venture, to an organization like Shiro's, for example. You could just log in and find enough mentorship and resources and all of that. Online world is your best friend.
I had a question. Sorry. Hi. Okay. So I'm the co-founder of an organization called Stop Acid Attacks. Now these women, as the name says, have been battered by acid. Now the point is for them to find jobs because they're so disfigured. It's a really difficult problem because a lot of people are actually really even afraid to look at their faces, let alone employ them, right? So keeping that in mind, we actually came up with a cafe in Agra called Shiro's. So yes, so that these women would be empowered to work and earn for themselves, right? Now the question is, not everybody wants to work in a cafe, and there are other women who want to do other stuff. So I am a hairdresser by profession, and I decided that I could teach them my trade, which is how to cut hair, and I think that that's something that a lot of women are really interested in. And there were also these ex-slave sex workers from Bombay, from Kamatipura district, who showed a lot of interest in learning how to cut hair. So now I'm teaching these women how to cut hair, which is a fabulous thing because they're very excited. And the goal is that tomorrow they want to go out there and they want to work. But the point once again is, who is going to employ these women? So my idea was that why not then set up salons all across the country where these women can actually work and make a living for themselves. But the question here is mindsets. So my biggest problem is dealing with people whose mindsets are, why would I go to ex-hooker to get a haircut? So how do you deal with mindsets? This is my biggest challenge. Thank you.
Although that said, I think part of your answer lies in the question that you just said, which is that you have helped them put up a cafe, knowing the mindsets at this point, which possibly, hopefully, will change. We'll get some more questions and then address that with the panel together.
One more question.
No more? Okay, we have time.
One question, please.
We didn't hear the gong.
One question.
We're done with it. Okay,
One question,
we're done with the
please.
questions. There's no more time.
One question, please.
Mr. Khan, do we have time for a second of closing comments from the panelists? No. Yes, very quickly. One thing that you all want from the government. One point.
Actually, yeah. So I think what I want from the government is not just for women. I think internet for all. I think, and to respond to what you said, ma'am, about opportunities. A lot of digital opportunities are gender agnostic. They're agnostic of who you are and what you do. And I think the solution for a lot of us is to say, do we fight the old or do we build the new? I think this is the opportunity to build the new.
Shanti.
aspire more for all women and make it easy.
I can actually request security because that goes a really long way in mitigating women entering workplace, quick ones. Just a good network of mentorship, so people who start up don't give up, for entrepreneurs in general, not just women entrepreneurs.
I always start from last. I think you started an event. It needs to become an environment which lets startup thrive. And so my request to the government is just to make sure this continues and actually builds into something that's bigger.
Yeah, it goes from startup day to startup every day. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Thank you, ladies. That was a wonderful way to end the morning half. I think we've had a lot of inspiration this day. So a real memento for all of you. Folks, before you leave the hall, two very important announcements. Like Mr. Kant said about lunch, there are lunch boxes available in the annex area right outside. Make the lunch snappy. The second, very importantly, is its choices. We've got 3 brilliant panels which are going on in parallel. We'll just put a slide up which will tell you about the panels. There's a panel on digitization, which I think you might want to be part of. The second one is on healthcare, and the third one is on lessons from Silicon Valley. That's the slide. That's the first slide. First panel, how digitization will change India's future. That panel is going to go from 2 to 250, Making Indian healthcare leapfrog is the second panel session. The halls are all mentioned. And then finally, the third one is inspirations from Silicon Valley. We're going to vacate this hall completely because of PM security. Please have your lunch, catch the panel you want. Being an entrepreneur is about making choices. And let's have you back here at 2:45. We're trying to pick up 5 minutes of time. Please be back here at 2:45. Your schedule says 2:55, but please be back at 2:45. We are going to start early. Thank you very much.
Yeah.